Okay, guys,
Well, that sucks.
I hit record. Thanks everyone for being here. I don't know if Chris is going to join us today. He was kind of busy this week. He's been working on the story. He also reached out to a couple of professional music making people. I don't know what that's called right
Oh,
now.
nice.
Yeah.
Musician?
Yeah, musicians that have done.
Musician. Yeah.
Dude, it's Monday, and I was up really late last night watching terrible 80s movies. Um, yeah, musicians that have
We
actually
just,
done music for video games before. I guess one of his musicians did music for an MMO that has yet to be released or isn't going to be released or something. So I sent over just the original music from the second game
mhm.
just to kind of give an idea of probably what we're looking for, but also give someone plenty of bandwidth to be creative with. So yeah, Dan, we can see your screen. This looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's coming along. I worked hard on over the week and weekend, and just make sure that deliver something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I got the front end texture. This is a low poly, so it's not that much.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks cool.
it
Yeah, it looks
looks
really great.
absolutely incredible. Like it's recognizable. The minute we put that up, people will be like, "Oh my god, that looks like that PlayStation game. What was that? Colony Wars?"
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I've been working on this week is helping Dan with some of the modeling. My UV mapping skills are not anywhere near his, and that's kind of slowed me down a little bit. Let me share my
hmm
screen. Um, let's go screen two. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Yeah. So this is the original
Yeah, I got it.
platform for Colony Wars, the weapons platform. And one of our levels for Vengeance, the first three levels that we're rebuilding, requires it to be rebuilt. Here in wireframe mode, we can see that it's pretty low poly. They were pretty smart with the way that they built it. So I built something similar over here, and I've just been working on this kind of stuff. It looks so simple, and it is, but UV mapping a sphere, um, especially one that has like faces like up in here and stuff, that's been a little challenging. We got it, from what I understand, Dan, we got the power cell in the latest build, right?
I still haven't. I haven't done anything.
You haven't put it in a Unity package and sent it up to the cloud?
No.
Okay. When you get a chance, if you could do that, like I found out last week, I no longer have access to the actual updates you guys are doing because of the seat thing. We only have those three seats, and you guys have them. So I'm going to have to be sending assets to people as they're created. That also being said, Matt, I this morning I meant to get to it last Friday, but last Friday was kind of chaotic. I
Right.
started. I kind of worked on the UI design and sent the files up to Zeppelin, which you should have access to.
A Tie
Um,
Fighter.
you what?
Okay. What?
Say what?
I said, how come there's a Tie Fighter in there?
Yeah, a Tie Fighter. Yeah, just to give the idea of the enemy. But it's interesting what changes and what doesn't change between UI states. So this is the anti-shield laser and the anti-shield missile. And what's
hmm
interesting is when I was playing the game, when you go to the anti-hull, all it does is change the little icon next to it. It doesn't actually
Right.
change the missile icon or the laser icon. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then when I started looking at the grappling hook versus the seismic lance, something similar happens where the seismic lance, the icon changes to this spiky thing, and you get this new little round icon, which I guess means seismic lance. And when you change to the grappling hook, it uses the same weapon icon as the seismic lance, and it just changes the little icon here.
Right.
So it's weird. It's like there's certain states where it uses the same weapon graphic, but a different
Hmm.
icon.
I
And
think it would just
that's
be easier to have just the one icon.
well,
Even if it uses the same graphic, because then otherwise you're switching like two different UI elements or sometimes
yeah,
three maybe,
yeah,
right? And then you have to determine when to do that, when not to do it,
yeah.
right?
What I went ahead and did is I made this whole little thing exportable. If you look over here in assets, yeah, it you could just export it as a single graphic, even though it uses similar weapon graphics. You could just export it all as a single graphic, and then you're just swapping single assets.
Hmm.
So I threw those in there. I still think we got a few to come. I hadn't worked on the actual missile. There's a distinction in the game between missiles and torpedoes. Torpedoes just fire straight, just wherever you shoot them. They don't think, they don't
Right,
lock on. The missiles lock on, and there's this whole UI system around locking on where you'll actually get an arrow that will target like the nearest enemy, and the arrow will
right.
point to wherever they are. And then you get this like these two arrows come into the screen and start rotating around the target. Um, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I can't animate graphics here in Zeppelin. But I'm sure if I create the arrow graphics and then hand them to you, Matt, you'll figure out how to make them zoom in and everything.
Yeah, you can just rotate. You can use, usually they're just like billboarded particles.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then you can have a particle rotate. So that's what I
Yeah.
would do probably.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I've been working on this week. We know what Dan's been working on this week. What's everyone else been working on?
Let's see.
Uh,
I can go next.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, this is okay. So previously, I haven't been able to put in that much time into this project because of school. But I think for this next week, I'm really just going to try and do many hours more, just so I can. Because the next 2 weeks after this is finals, and then after that, it'll just be winter break. So,
Yeah.
so what I've been. Let's see if I can actually share my screen. I know Discord likes to throw out JavaScript errors, so we can only.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Let's see. Does this work?
Yep. There we
All right.
go.
Okay, so hopefully this updates. All right, so let's see. Okay, tell me if you can see the screen changing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we can
All
see
right.
yeah, we can
Yep.
see the hex flying
Yeah, looks
around.
good.
Yep. Okay, so this current scene right here, it features a ship who is trying to get away from the player, and they are doing a few different actions right now. Right now, they're trying to do this thing where they rotate around the player. If we get super close and we start firing the shield beam,
Uh-huh. God,
and
that
we
looks
hit it,
cool.
yeah. If we actually hit it, it's trying to move in such a way that it's easy to hit, but also kind of realistic. Now, if we get its shield down, now it's going to be a lot more frantic in trying to avoid us.
Oh.
It's doing the semicircle motions where it's hard for the player to follow. We have to stop following.
Yeah.
And now, if we can actually, it'd be a bit more difficult to try and destroy it.
Yeah.
And let's see. After it gets a certain point away, it's going to try and fire at us again.
Uh-huh.
But we can destroy it there. And that's a big part of what I've been doing.
Okay, that looks so good. I can actually see it being more frantic when its shields go down.
Yeah, so right now this activity is all hard coded in basically, and it doesn't really vary between ships, but I have made it in such a way that it will be a lot more varied depending on the each ship's, confidence level, bravery, status, things like that.
Yeah.
So that means each ship is going to be a lot more unique. Um, and the thing about this portion I'm working on compared to the rest of the project that I've done before this is that this version is a lot more math oriented that I've noticed. Previously, there's a lot of things where it's like, what's it called? It's a lot more game designy, the rest of the project, where it's just like putting particles in different places and moving the location of them, whatever. But here it's a lot more trying to get the dot product of a specific vector and then multiplying that by the matrix inverse of something. Oh, it's very complicated and confusing, but
Yeah.
it's gotten a lot better, and I think it's going to be very cool for the end of the project.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
that already is so reminiscent. That behavior is reminiscent, but more than the original game. Because, they would fly toward you and shoot, they'd fly away, they'd try to escape a little bit. And it wasn't that the original game was all that difficult. But I can see how this adds just that extra twist on the difficulty.
But yeah, this is so this week I'm gonna try really. Oh, another thing. I've been reading a lot of books about artificial intelligence. There's this one in particular I'm trying to get soon called. Let's see, it's called Gödel, Escher, Bach, and it was made in 1979. But it's kind of like a touchstone for artificial intelligence. And the thing is, my goal for this project, I think, is to make our own neural network like data type, which is previously we were trying to use a pre-made one, but I think if we create our own, it could be a lot better for this project because we can actually tailor it around what we need
Yeah,
the AI to do. And that's going to be
yeah.
a bit more difficult, but I think it's going to result in the project being a lot cooler.
Okay. And you think, is that a realistic goal by the end of the year? We're already in the last week of November.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to take, let's see. This week I'm going to try and finish up most of the capabilities of this baseline AI, which is just responding to inputs and responding to its own statistics, like
Yeah.
the aforementioned confidence, bravery, all that stuff. I think I'm gonna try to get that done by the end of the week, and then the stuff that involves machine learning and stuff that's gonna be more tailored to avoiding obstacles and trying to predict movements.
Uh huh.
And finally, I'm going to see if it's possible if we could make this learn from the player in terms of things like if the player tends to attack the enemies in a very specific pattern, then the enemies over time are going to realize that and try to avoid the player's attacks in the future. And that's something that specifically is what machine learning is used for. So
Okay.
yeah, that's going to be the goal by the end of the year for sure. I think it could be done.
Okay, that's awesome. Because other than that, I mean, that's a very large part of what's going to make this game feel like this game is going to be the AI and everything. That's really great to hear and even more impressive to see. That's awesome. And then, Matt, what if, as far as the UI and the weapon systems go, you were telling me the next biggest hurdle was probably going to be the grappling hook?
Yeah. Well, eventually, I still have to do the missile and the torpedo.
Okay.
So, now that I got like a little bit better understanding of the game, I kind of
Uh-huh.
just culled a bunch of the weapon stuff and
Uh-huh.
cleaned house and made it simpler.
Okay.
I found that I was doing I was going a little bit too complicated for what the game actually is.
Yeah.
Because really, we don't have a whole lot of weapons.
No, not right now.
You
Not in
know
the
what I
demo.
mean?
There will be more weapons later on. Like there's a weapon, an EMP weapon that makes the enemies not be able to shoot back and power down their engines. And there's super
Right.
weapons and laser cannons. But all the weapons in the game are pretty simple and pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So, anyways, I culled a bunch of stuff, cleaned up a whole bunch of scripts, and then I added the primary and secondary weapons to the weapon database objects that I was using to load weapons onto ships.
Uh-huh.
So now the intelligent agents have both primary and secondary weapons.
Okay.
Which I needed to talk to Justin about that because I don't know how the intelligent agent is firing the secondary weapons.
I didn't have secondary weapons in the current build. Really, what you should do is, I mean, what I could do is the input manager add a new button key that, when pressed, will fire off a function inside the intelligent agent class. You can use that to do basically the same thing with the current weapon setup, which is increase the
Right.
index in the weapon, and if it reaches the length of the weapons array
Okay.
like the beginning.
Well, I set up the inputs already. My thing was like you had like the weapon fire variables and all that kind of stuff going on with the set state and all that. And I didn't know how you wanted to tie in secondary weapons with all that stuff. Can I just, for testing, just call fire weapon from the secondary weapon for now, or is there
What do you
something
mean?
specific? Because you're gonna tie the AI into the secondary weapons too, right?
I don't think that the AI will really have secondary weapons. They really just have the one. I mean,
Oh, okay.
we can add that in the future if that's something that we need. But right now, well, actually, hold on,
Okay.
I forget I said that completely. We do. I forget. They did have like their own missiles and stuff. But that's the whole point of the flares.
Yeah.
So never mind. Yeah.
Right.
Then the secondary. Then they will have secondary weapons. Yes. I think
Yeah, I
that.
didn't want to go in there and start like implementing my own system when you've already got something going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as you have the input work the same way that all the other input is, which is so the player input calls a method inside intelligent agent, and that method handles everything specifically. Do you know the new input system, right, with input actions?
Yeah, I've already added all that. Like I'm already getting the input from the player. I
And
just need to
that
know how to.
oh, go on.
Yeah, like I set up all like the on shoot secondary weapon and then like for the cycling weapons and everything too. I set all that up in your input manager.
Oh, okay, that's great. So then what's the problem?
Because like in intelligent agent, you have like set state and it's setting like rotation and direction and
Hmm.
whether or not the player is firing. But it's only set up to do the primary weapon. So I didn't know how you wanted me to plug in the secondary weapon.
Oh, no, I see the problem now. Okay, so you're right. I think we
You
should
know what
add
I
a new
mean?
variable in there. Yeah, I totally see what you mean now. A new overloaded function that is has another bool at the end that says, I mean that. So there's actually okay.
Oh, I
So
see.
we
Yeah.
have the function that is
For your
it
set
takes in
state, for set
yeah,
state.
yeah. For set state, it takes in rotation, thrust, and one other variable I forget. Um, is
Now, are
firing.
these going to be able to? Well, so I'm trying to imagine, is this going to be able to be fired off at the same time then if they're both getting input?
They
Like,
shouldn't. I don't think.
should all be the same frame, right? So, like, if you do the primary and secondary at the same time, I just want to make sure that that's going to catch that, right?
Um, yeah, if it's all going to be registered in the same frame, so it won't take in two set states at once. That's why we should use a bool at the end, which is primary weapon fired. If it's true, then we fire the primary weapon. False, we do secondary. And we just
Oh,
add in
really?
that
So
new.
toggle back and forth?
I think that it won't really toggle. It'll just say if the input is I don't know, square, then we do this one weapon. Else, if it's triangle, we do the other weapon. So it's not like a
Can
toggle.
you
It's
not
really
do them
just
at the same time?
no. I don't think that's how it works in the original
Okay.
game.
All right.
Is it? Wait,
And that's
does it
just for
actually?
the set state?
What was that?
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I probably, I don't know. Do you want to take a look at it and see how you want it to work?
I think. I mean, as long in my eyes, the set state has that fire is firing
Mm-hmm.
variable. I think we should have a new variable inside intelligent agent, which is a boolean that is just called primary weapon is firing or whatever. Um,
Okay.
and
Oh, I
set
get what you're
state,
saying.
yeah, set state sets that variable, and in the fixed update function that just runs constantly,
Right.
in the current version, it's saying if is firing is going. If it's true, then we just fire the
Mm-hmm.
weapon. Now we just add a new thing,
Then
which
we add
is
another condition in there. Yeah.
yeah, if we are firing, then we have another if statement, which is if primary weapon is true, then we fire the primary weapon. False,
Right.
then yeah, I think that'd be the best way.
So then just from player input, I'm just going to tag in like whichever one's firing, true or false, every time I call set state, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah. For the current purposes of this Okay, so what we should do is we search for every instance of set state, and we just add in that new variable. And in the current version,
Right.
we set it all true, which is the primary weapon is firing. And when it comes to the part where we need to switch to the secondary weapon, then we can add the functionality to take in the input and set that variable to whatever the player wants to do or AI wants to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I also have cycling through the primary and secondary weapons working on the intelligent agent and then updating the UI. But right now it's just placeholder art.
Mhm.
So you can cycle through both the primary and the secondary weapons now, and it updates the UI. So
That's great.
And you're just
yeah.
using art you found online or something?
I just like a red cube with the text like laser or whatever.
Oh,
You know.
okay, yeah. Cool. So
right,
then it
yeah.
sounds like I finished those UI graphics right on time.
Yeah, and then the seismic lance now reduces shields, and that kind of brings me to another point. Like, does the wiki say like how much damage and how much shield depletion every weapon does, or
Yep.
is there a document maybe you could?
Yep.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
So get this, I have more than just the wiki. I have the strategy guide that it actually breaks it down.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will make sure to find if I can't find it on the wiki, I will literally take pictures with my phone and email you them.
Yeah, that could be like a spreadsheet that we have too, to keep track of all like the weapon
Yeah,
stats.
actually, I could just start a spreadsheet. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and then we could also
That would be
put
awesome.
in eventually, planning for the best case scenario when we get funded. We haven't talked about there is an upgrade system to the game that can increase how much damage your lasers do or how fast or what your turn radius is.
Oh, okay.
So those are variables we'll
Interesting.
have to pull too.
Okay, and then lastly, I played around with the projectile assets that we had for lasers and the anti-shield lasers.
Uh-huh.
And I think I got something that represents the shape that you want more.
Okay.
But you'll have to take a look at that and let me know what you think if we can get this.
Is
This
there
thing
any
figured
way
out.
is there any way one of you guys could publish a playable build for me?
Yeah. I think that's a way that I think that Unity has a way you can just export as like an executable. So
Yeah.
I feel I could do that.
If somebody
Oh, yeah.
could do that just so I have something to play, and maybe even
Mhm.
take some alpha footage from to stick on the website. And not at any risk that I'm going to break something or that it's going to get broken midway through taking a video because someone uploaded something and all that.
Right. What was the cost on those extra seats? Was that like crazy or something?
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I want to say it was like $100 an additional seat a month or something.
Yeah, that's pretty costly, huh?
Yeah,
Because it sucks that not everybody can just get the game,
Yeah. Yeah, and I just don't have the money for that right now, but that might soon change. I'm picking up more contract work, so I might be able to fund that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told
So
you
yeah,
guys this was
Justin,
going to
we'll
be
have to figure out what's wrong with the kind of updating thing because this is like the second week in a row
Yeah,
where
for
like my
sure.
build hasn't worked.
Mhm.
I am doing, like I said, I did call a lot, so I did do a lot of like renaming and deleting of assets. So I don't know.
Mhm. Also, this could just be another Unity error. It probably is, but you're not when you delete assets, you're not doing it from the file explorer, are you? You're doing it from inside Unity.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, because those like meta files and stuff.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. I hope we're just not like now we've gotten to a point where we have alternate timelines.
For sure.
You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean? Like I'm
probably
working
it.
on like a completely different project and I keep updating it and everything's fine, and then like you're working on something else, right?
Yeah, what I think I'm gonna do after this meeting is I haven't done this in a while, but I'm just going to completely delete the current project and re-download it from the cloud so that we're both synced up, and maybe that's gonna fix something.
Let's cross our fingers, huh?
Yeah. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done that recently, and if Unity just accidentally keeps the single file then and updates it when it
Right.
shouldn't be updated, that could just, butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we if we have to figure out how to merge these projects now
Mhm.
remotely like this without the collaboration thing working, just to
That's
get it to a working state, that's going to be a huge fucking headache, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm super excited. So it sounds like everybody knows what they need to work on is just continuing where we were this week. Matt, if you want to grab those graphics from the Zeppelin and shove them in, then we'll have
Right.
something that'll actually change states. Justin, sounds like you're well on your way with the AI,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dan is rocking out with these models. And I'm sure by now Dan has put in so many hours on these models. Like this is incredible. If it wasn't coronavirus right now, I'd say we need to take him out for beer and get him super super drunk because I'm sure he is up to his eyeballs with this already.
Yeah, you guys have a ton of work done. I love all the models. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the process of
All
like
week on this thing, you know, like I was just trying to hammer through it because I'd rather have like a playable demo, you know, like soon. And so I mean, this model right now is it's all three parts of the ship is on one 4096, you know, 4K texture, and I did the UVs myself and I straightened them out.
That's crazy. That wasn't programmatically packed. He actually laid them out like that by hand.
so is the process of like doing UVs just like really tedious or
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
It's an art form in itself. That's why you have like a modeler, a texture artist, a materialist, like a UV skinner. Like
Yeah.
there's I'm playing all the hats on this.
Dan's doing the work of like 5 people. And that's part of my problem keeping up with him is that those 5 people, there's parts of it I'm really good at, and then parts I'm not good at all. The UV mapping is hardest for me, and Dan, it's so he has it down. It's crazy.
I find it kind of relaxing to work on UVs.
It is. It's some people get upset about it because they don't understand it, and then once you do, it's kind of like you play your own Sudoku puzzle Tetris.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did record a lot of the footage of building this ship. So I'll be going over that to share with everybody about the process and what I do and all that stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably, Dan, when you're done with this, we're probably done modeling for a while. I mean, I'll finish my platform, but after that, we've got pretty much everything we're going to need for the playable demo, for Vengeance at least. Um, and I'm not really even going to worry about doing the first game or the third game until we have something super solidly playable with Vengeance. Because it doesn't make sense to add more toys in the toy box if what we have isn't already working.
Well, not just that, but we have to make the jump when we present this to Sony or whatever to get them to say okay. Because if we do anything else further than that, then it's all wasted effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. Cool. So then, when you're done with this model, maybe if you could edit that video up, we can put it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I still have to make the debris chunks of the previous models, but that won't take long. So I just have to make a tileable texture of just shredded machinery, you know, something that would represent like broken parts, and then put those inside the pre-existing ships.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I'm thinking here. I wonder if the audio for these meetings would make an interesting podcast.
I wonder that too. The issue would be well, no, I guess not, because sometimes what we're talking about is on screen, and so I don't know how without the screen element. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if these are really all that.
It's still kind of interesting though, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I can always do that. I can always yank the audio out.
No, I think it's best that we leave the audio in because, like, you know, when you post this on YouTube or whatever, like, they could see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. He just means like a separate thing.
Yeah, like if we wanted to do a podcast, we would just yank out the video and upload it as a podcast. But there's so many visual elements to this that might not be it. That might
Yeah,
be,
you're
not
right.
be the best way to digest this. But it certainly would be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys. Well, have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe, everyone. COVID has me paranoid. I'm not going to be visiting my family because I don't want to put my dad at risk. So, but
Yeah, same here. We're gonna have Thanksgiving alone, pretty much.
yeah, just you, the wife, and
The
kids.
family. I think the mom's coming out, so I guess that's a risk.
Yeah, you got to
Well,
be
maybe I
careful.
shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah, everybody
We'll
needs to be
see.
careful, even if you're not in a risk
Yeah.
group. Yeah. But alrighty, cool. Then let's just continue forward, and we'll meet next Monday and show off our latest. And if one of you guys, Matt or Justin, when you have a minute, if once you have like the build working, if one of you could just export an executable so that I could capture some footage from it, that would be great.
For sure.
You don't want the UI I have.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait for you to update the UI with the new elements.
Actually,
Okay.
let's we need to have that UI. I think would be very good. We also need to fix the issue of the enemies not being able to fire their weapon. I think we need to.
So I sent those. I did have colliders on those. I set those to is trigger, and like I'm not having any issues with it, like destroying on the player ship or anything like that. And before I had done that, it was actually pushing ships away a little bit. Whenever they were hit, they would kind of bounce back a little bit. So I think that's fixed. I don't know. Actually, you know what? It's probably because the friendly ships don't have the transform locations where the particles are spawned from. Remember, I have it so that like whenever you add a weapon to a
You
ship,
had a point where
it
where the
finds
laser
it-
spawns from.
Yeah, it finds all of the transform points where all the projectile for that particular weapon should fire from. So that's probably why it just can't find the spawn point.
Yeah, I see. If because like that adds a lot to see the lasers
Oh, yeah,
fly past
totally.
you and the whole Doppler and stuff. I think that's a big thing. And if after that and also these UI things, then it'll look pretty polished for a video.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we gotta fix the build first, make sure we can play the game, right?
Yeah,
I think that's step one.
I'm gonna do a complete reset, just completely re-download everything to see if that fixes anything, and then
Okay.
yeah, I'll look into what else I can do to this AI to make it a bit more flashy, and let's try to aim for like 2 days or whatever, just to fix the whatever UI changes, the weapon, and just some more AI stuff.
That would be great
Cool,
if you
can you
could do that.
Can you shoot me a list of all like the ships because I'll go in and I'll add all of the spawn points for all of the ships.
Yeah, you should have access to the Excel spreadsheet Dan and I created that has all of these ships in it.
Well, I mean, I'm mostly concerned with like the prefabs that have like the scripts and everything on them ready to go.
So what do you want me to supply to you?
The prefabs in the project. Oh, Justin, if you can just give me a list of what I'm looking for all the ships. I know there's a bunch of different ships.
Yeah, for sure. I could,
Yeah.
I also do this thing. Okay, so there's this thing with the frigates where they shoot these little lasers out of them, and I did that by creating a bunch of just empty game objects just around that spawn and random direct. It doesn't really spawn. It's pre-made for each of these frigates, but and
Right.
they each. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. They're just where the lasers come out of.
Yeah. They're like their own game objects, and they work pretty much the same way
Right.
as the little spawn points on these ships. But
Yeah, exactly. I would just have to add the spawn point script on it.
Pretty
and
much,
set
yeah.
it to be a laser. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So that's another thing, but that should be.
Well, I know
already
there's
have
the
thing.
frigate, but there's a bunch of other stuff too, right?
Yeah. Open the frigate, and then there's like 10 child objects inside it.
Okay.
That's another thing. But yeah, you already have the framework for that, so that shouldn't be a big issue. But I'll give
You know,
you.
the funny thing is I'm probably gonna set those all to laser projectile spawn points, and they're all gonna shoot at the same time. That's gonna be crazy looking.
Yeah, firing like 9 lasers all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like fireworks.
Yeah.
I wonder how we manage that.
Maybe a timer on them, like they can only fire at every 2 seconds or something, and then
Well,
offset
that's like
those.
almost a weapon, just like a separate weapon script almost.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, the for the frigates, they have their own weapon. It's called like, I forget what it's called. It's something weird. It's like frigate, small green weapon or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, tiny frigate beam. That's what it's called. It's like
Tiny
it's like-
frigate beam.
Yep, it's just a smaller general enemy laser that's just green.
Yeah. I mean the actual firing of the weapon.
I think they
Like
also have taken. Hold on, let me just open the frigate so I can see what this is.
Because I'll have to kind of plug it into whatever I'm doing right now.
Let's see. So there's the okay. So is it the Stormlord actually? No. What's it called? It's not the Leisure. It's the
The tribe gunship, the gunboat.
Tribe gunship.
Advanced fire. It's not advanced fire. Those are the little guys, right? Those are a lot of fun to actually shoot down. I got a chance to kind of play the game for a little while this week. Those were fun.
Yeah.
The little fighters.
Yeah.
Where did
And I like how you aim, how it kind of shows you where you aim ahead of the actual ship too. That's really cool.
Yeah. That's something that's one of those pain points that we're gonna have to really nail. The
It
little
works pretty well for me. I was trying to shoot it like just direct on before I realized that's how it worked. It was so hard.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, the original game, the gameplay was incredible. And I mean, that's the whole point. We've got to nail this pretty damn close.
All right, forget what I said about the tiny spawn points. I think at some point I replaced it with a version that doesn't have the spawn points, which is weird. I don't know why I would do that, but I must have had a good reason. So yeah, so just
Yeah,
those,
good,
maybe at runtime you could just randomly spawn 10 spawn points or whatever just around the frigates, so that they just whenever an enemy gets close, whenever an enemy to the frigate gets close to the frigate, then it's just fire off these little lasers at them.
right.
The laser to fire off would be called Tiny Frigate Beam.
Okay.
Yep, it's basically the beam that the enemy already has, where it affects both the shield and the hull the same, but it
Okay.
does it at less damage.
So the frigate would probably have its own weapon then, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So now there's like there's an enemy weapons and player weapons.
Yes, I think maybe.
The weapon universe is expanding. Huh?
It's slowly expanding.
Weapon cinematic universe.
I'm just trying to figure out if I can use the laser weapon I already have, right? Like, I guess not. I'll have to do a different one.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
think
right,
it would be good to have not just one weapon, but like 10 different weapons that act independently from the gunship that just attack whatever's closest to them. I think that's how it work in the actual game.
Yeah.
It's not like the gunship targets an enemy and they all fire each of them. It just like if you get close enough to one of these spawn points, then that spawn point will fire the weapon at you.
That's interesting. These could be like a whole different category. There'll be AI weapons.
Pretty
let's
much,
say.
yeah.
And how about can we use trigger spaces for those, for the range?
What do you mean by that?
Just like a sphere collider set to trigger instead of calculating the distance of the player all the time, just do triggers, trigger based.
Oh.
That's a real.
Yeah,
I
after the
wish we
trigger
had
you get
two.
shot at.
That's actually a
What?
really good idea because in my AI things, I'm like calculating distance 50 times or whatever. So if we could-
Yeah, it gets crazy.
oh yeah, that'd be good. That idea would be a lot better than just distance a whole bunch in each fixed update, probably. Yeah, I mean for sure, it actually would be. Yeah.
Should we do that for all the enemy weapons and like the friendlies too? We'll just have AI weapons that are triggered like that.
No. Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, you have that one ship that's trying to shoot at the enemies with you, right? That's the friendly. Am I understanding that?
That's not gonna
Should
that,
that work the same way?
that's not gonna shoot based on proximity. It's not the enemy has to one be facing the let me rephrase. A ship has to one face the enemy and two decide to fire it. It shouldn't just be like when you're close enough, then this weapon looks
Right.
straight at the enemy and fires at it. So that'd be a
That's
bit
more built into the AI system then. That could use the regular player laser then, pretty much, right? Just worked into the AI.
It should use the same firing system, but the weapon itself should be different. I know the player has like a shield beam and a hull beam, but the enemy just has one general beam that affects both the player's shield and hull the same way.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Cool.
Cool. Cool. Well, all right, guys. I'm gonna cut the video and we're gonna print it, and we'll have another dev video.
All right.
Cool.
Sounds good.
I will see you guys Monday, and I will talk to you. We'll be in contact while we build this week's deliverables.
Sounds
Yep.
good.
Sounds good.
Cool. Talk to you guys later.
You guys take
All
care.
right. Bye.